Did you know this when it comes to Zebec? Now, nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is purely my perspective. However, again, did you know that in the first quarter of this year alone, Zebec actually allegedly served 13,100 employees? And this is not even according to me. It's not something I figured out myself. That's not the case. They recently released a quarterly report for 2026, and it did indicate that they allegedly did serve 13,100 employees, which I think showcases really kind of the impact when it comes to Zebec overall, because we have to think about that. That's a lot. That's very massive. I mean, if we think about a stadium and there's, let's say, 13,000 people approximately attending that, that would be considered pretty impressive. So I think this right here kind of highlights, I think, what Zebec has been doing so far, because for the first quarter of this year, a lot of people have been complaining about Zebec. But at the same time, I think that this is more so of a marathon for me. It's not a sprint. I mean, for a project, in my hypothetical perspective, to kind of make it through a market downturn, historically, what have we seen? We've seen projects that continue to build, continue to stay strong fundamentally, and also on top of that, continue to improve and also, I think, just survive and make it through. I mean, let's take a look at Cardano. Years ago, a lot of people wrote Cardano off. They thought it was done. But then we saw what ADA, which is its native token, we saw what that did in 2021. And even as of right now, Cardano is still considered as one of the most massive projects out there. But it had to make it through those years before. Along the way, though, some projects out there, they kind of became irrelevant because they didn't continue to build. They didn't continue to do things, whereas Cardano was doing that. So we see Cardano here today. It doesn't mean that every single project out there that continues to build and thrive will automatically survive. I don't think so. But at the same time, usually for the projects that have made it through, I've seen continuous development even at a time when the market wasn't doing the best. So when it comes to Zebec, by them still doing things even at a time like this, I think it showcases that they understand that this is probably not a sprint, it's a marathon to them. And I do like that because I think even the team understands that concept, right? They still continue to do things despite the market not doing the best, unlike some other projects out there which have given up and they don't really treat it like a marathon. I mean, let's think about this. In order for me to run a marathon, my mindset has to be and my strategy has to be, how am I going to be able to run this marathon in an efficient way? It's like, for instance, if I want to run a marathon, I'm not going to be sprinting the first 2 minutes of that marathon. I'm probably not going to be doing that because that just doesn't seem like such a wise thing for me to do if I want to finish the marathon. A marathon for me is all about pacing, keeping a sustainable pace over an extended period of time. When it comes to a sprint, it's just all out like that. It's a bit of a different strategy. So when it comes to the space, it's more of a marathon in a lot of cases that I see. So if a project understands that and embraces that mindset, that is something that I like because, again, how would a project be able to make it through a market downturn if it's not able to survive and also if it's not able to improve fundamentally? I just don't see how it would do that. Now, it could maybe happen in some cases, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult. So this is why I like a project that continues to do things when the market isn't doing the best. And Zebec, in my opinion, people like to say, well, it's done. They like to say it's cooked. Well, really though? I mean, if we think about ZBCN in the past 365 days, so basically in the past year, the movement has been actually nearly 160%. So yes, it's had a pullback since its kind of most recent peak in 2025, but at the same time, it hasn't been doing like, I think, so bad in the grand scheme of things. Now, again, I am not telling anyone to do anything, but when people like to tell me that Zebec is doing so bad, is almost like a 160% movement considered bad? I mean, if that is the case, then I don't know what would be considered to be good. Now, granted, again, in the grand scheme of things, overall, Zebec hasn't been doing the most fantastic. However, I think what I've seen so far in the past year when it comes to ZBCN, even though it hasn't been the best, I don't think it's like so bad like that. But this is just, again, my personal outlook, and I'm just looking at the chart after all. That's it. But even besides that point, if I take a look at Zebec as well, if let's say people like to say, again, that it's cooked, what I don't understand is why are they saying that Zebec is cooked, but then something like Ripple or Stellar isn't. Because let's think about how Zebec is one of the most popular projects out there within the niche of global trade and finance. Of course, Ripple and Stellar being number one and number two. So if people like to say that one of the top projects within a niche that they're a fan of is cooked, I just don't get it in some cases, because when it comes to global trade and finance, we already know there is a very massive fan base when it comes to that. We already know that the niche has historically been pretty popular. So is like one of the top 5, top 10 projects within that niche just randomly gonna be forgotten about if the niche were to return back to, let's say, its previous sentiment? I just don't see why that would be the case, just because Zebec, it's not like it's the 40th or 50th most popular project within its own niche. That's not the case. It's arguably, I think, top 5 as of right now when it comes to the space of global trade and finance within this specific, I guess, space, right? So if, let's say, people like to tell me that the narrative when it comes to Ripple and Stellar, they like to say, oh, it's gonna hypothetically return and all this. If they say that to me, wouldn't I also maybe kind of think about Zebec as well? Because the thing is, Zebec already has a partnership with Stellar. We haven't heard about the Ripple one, but we've seen sometimes hints here and there. Who knows what will happen, but I'm saying we'll wait and see. So I just don't know why people like to tell me that Zebec is cooked. Maybe it's not doing the best, but I don't know why it would be considered cooked, because the niche feels to me a little bit more evergreen. Like the niche that Zebec is focused on, it's focused on global trade and finance, primarily speaking. It's a niche that historically we've seen some pretty good popularity. So yes, the market hasn't been doing the best, but what happens if it recovers? Usually people do care about the global trade and finance space within this space. They care about other niches too, but historically, the global trade and finance space has been a niche that people often have focused on. So overall, to me, when it comes to Zebec, I like the niche that it's focused on. I like the presence when it comes to it in terms of the global trade and finance space. I like its continued development, and also I like the community when it comes to Zebec. I think Zebec, to me, it kind of feels like it has a little bit of that it factor, in a sense where I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but that it factor for me is the community. Because if I take a look at it, let's say in the case of, if I'm a developer in a pure hypothetical, if I make a project, maybe I can design the fundamentals, I can design kind of the objective of the project, but what's difficult is to make the project, let's say, have this vibe where people just are very passionate about it. That's not really, I think, something that I would be able to create like that. It's like, for instance, if we're a fan of a athlete or a musician, or let's say an actor, usually if we're a fan, it's something that we can't really explain, right? It has that it factor sort of feeling. When it comes to Zebec, why do I think it maybe has that it factor feel to me? Because keep in mind, when ZBCN was not doing the best, ever since the start of this year, I've actually seen the amount of holders increase for whatever reason when it comes to ZBCN. It recently reached 100,000 holders. That doesn't really kind of apply to a lot of other projects out there. A lot of projects out there lost holders. It's reducing, it's not increasing. Because naturally, that would be the logical thing to assume, right? Again, the market isn't doing the best. People are leaving some projects. Again, sometimes that makes sense. But when it comes to Zebec, it had a pullback ever since a certain point in 2025, but the amount of holders actually increased, which I found very impressive. So when I take a look at that, I kind of view that as a it factor sort of thing, because again, it wouldn't really originally make sense, but that apparently is the case. So that's why I kind of think about it that way. But as of right now, personally for me, I'm still waiting. I can't control anything when it comes to this space. Like, I'm just one person. I can't do anything. I could complain. I could, do 100 push-ups. It's not going to change anything when it comes to this market. But I voluntarily decided to believe in this. I don't have to, but it's just a voluntary choice that I'm doing, because I understand that, okay, I might have to wait for quite a while. I understand that this market, the movement sometimes could feel a bit intense. I was willing to not mind that That is why I'm believing in this space. If that type of stuff bothers me at all, I would not even believe in this space at all. Really, I would just wouldn't. Because if something bothers me, then why would I want to enter into a space that bothers me, right? I wouldn't do that. The only way that I would enter into a space is if I didn't mind. So that's why I just haven't left. That's the way I take a look at it. I mean, a lot of people like to tell me again, why am I still caring about Zebec? Well, again, it's just because of those reasons. I don't mind the project, I still like it, and I just don't mind this space overall, and I'm willing to wait. So if I take a look at all of those factors, I take that into consideration, then yeah, it just basically boils down to me not wanting to leave. I just want to stay, and I want to wait and see what happens, but only time will tell. But again, nonetheless, I'll still be waiting, and I'll document my journey along the way. That's pretty much about it. So I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you all have a very nice day. I greatly appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.